Alright everyone, welcome back to another video of Salesforce Makes Sense, and in this video we'll continue our journey of understanding Apex and learning a lot more in our Salesforce Developer Masterclass. We have been doing a lot of practice questions, and we started off with some basic ones, and recently we did a certification tracker and we did a library tracker. It's time to make things a bit more interesting. It's time to understand and try to do a use case around travel tracker, right? So let's take a look at the use case. We want to create methods to store our travel journey. We want to create a method to store our wish list, which is basically places we want to travel. We want to create methods that tell you which countries you visited in a particular year, right? So let's say if you input 2020, where did you visit, right? Ideally you did not visit anywhere because it was COVID time, but let's say 2018 or 2016, if you visited certain places in that particular year, the method should be capable of telling you which country you visited, all right, or which city you visited. Okay, then another use case, another method we want to create is that stores the number of times you have been to a specific country. All right, so let's jump into this particular use case. For those of you who are seeing this video for the very first time and have not seen the entire playlist, I'll suggest you start from chapter 1, where we start off understanding Salesforce development and Apex from the very basics, building a foundation, and that's how we have reached here. For those of you who are confident in writing this particular use case yourself, pause the video and try to attempt it yourself and let me know how it goes. And for those of you who want to continue with me and do it alongside me, let's jump into it. Right, so let's jump into Salesforce org, and this is our developer edition org, and we are on the developer console, which we have been using for all our code. Right, so I'll create a new class here and I'll call it travel tracker. All right, so a new class is created and I want to start creating methods very quickly. So I'll say public static void. I'll put the syntax right. And the first method, what do we want is to store our travel journey, right? So I'll say capture locations. That is my first method. All right. What is my second method? My second method is my wish list, right? So I'll call it wish list tracker. What about my third method? My third method is the number of countries I've visited in a particular year. So I'll say show countries visited. Now, should this have a parameter? Yes, it should be a date parameter. So this would be of type date, and this would be date of, or basically year of, basically let's say year of visit. Okay, so let's make it an integer. Let's not keep it a date. Let's say you want to input 1995. Where did you travel in 1995? Or where did you travel in 23? I mean 2023. So just give that number, right? Not the entire date. All right, let's go ahead and create our fourth method. This method would basically store the count of the number of times you have been to a specific country. So I'll say this should tell me retrieve country count. So here I'll basically pass in my entire travel repository, my entire tracker, and it will tell me for a specific country how many times have I been to that country. All right, for now I'll just say return 0 just so that I'm able to save my class. So our method stubs are created. Now we want to start filling them up, right? So for those of you who are confident in writing it on your own, please pause the video here and go ahead yourself. Okay, don't worry. If you make mistakes, that's amazing. Or else let's do it together. Okay, so I want to store my travel journey. Now, how do I store my travel journey? What I can do is I can basically, let's say, create a map wherein I have the country name versus the year of visit. Correct? I could do that, right? There's another way you can store things. How about the year of visit be your key and the list of countries you visited on that particular year, you can store it. Okay, so we have seen a lot of examples with this plain ones, right? String, comma, integer. This is how your map would be, correct? But if we were to go the second route, the map would look like integer, comma, list of string, right? Which will make it a bit more interesting compared to what we have been doing. right? So this would be your map. Let's try to play around and try to mess with this map or this collection. Okay, keeping in mind that we'll store the year of visit versus the countries on that particular year. We will keep one map like this. Okay, so I'll just call it places visited. All right, I'll instantiate it, but I'll instantiate it later. Okay, that's one variable that I need. What is another variable I need? I need a list of string, which is my wish list. Correct? Places I want to go. So this would be my wish list. All right. So these are the two variables that I'm currently keeping with myself for now. Okay. I'll just make them public static. All right. I'll make this public static so that the instantiation is not needed and we can use it as and when we need in the methods. Okay, so the variables are created, the methods are created. Now we actually need to bind them together and create this whole travel tracker that we are looking for. So the first method is capture locations, right? So what we want to do is the first one stores your travel journey, meaning the method will give you the country name and the year of visit, right? And with this two information, you'll create your places visited directory. Correct? So this will store your entire journey, right? So what we'll do is we'll first of all instantiate our map. I'll call it integer comma list of string. Okay, just be with me. Okay, just be with me. We'll try to understand how things will work because the collection has just gotten a bit interesting, but be with me. All right, so places visited directory, I've just instantiated it. That's it. All right, what I want to do is I want to use my put method. Correct, so I'll say put. What should be my key? The key should be the year of visit. So far so good. Perfect. What should be my value? The value should be a list of string. Now, right now, I just have one string with me. Correct? So what I'll do is I'll simply say list of string and I'll say countries visited. And I'll create this new collection for myself for my local use. Okay. And what I can now do is I can say countries visited dot add country name. Right? So now what did I do with these two lines? I just simply created a list and that list is basically holding all the countries I visit. Let's assume that. Okay, now can I put this entire list here? Yes, I can. So then your map has the key of year of visit, which is an integer, and the value is a list of string as it's supposed to be. Right? So I'll just go ahead and say save. Let's try to save it first of all. Is it getting saved? This is getting saved. Okay, what we'll do is we'll try to debug and understand this particular method. All right, or let's do one more method. Let's do one more method. We'll look into the wish list tracker. Okay, so here we'll return our updated visited directory. Let's try to return it so that we are able to debug it and see it how it looks. So what would be the return type? It would be map of integer comma list of string. See, things got just a bit heavy. For those of you who are looking at this particular collection for the first time, don't worry. Just be with me. Okay, just let's resolve this together. We'll understand. Don't worry. It's not a big deal. Okay, so the method is saved up fine, the class is saved up fine. Now what I want to do is I want to show my wish list tracker, right? So there can be two things about a wish list. I can add values to my list or I can view my wish list. Correct, I can do two things, right? So what I'll do is I'll create one method wherein I'm adding values to my list. So what do I add? I'll add my country name I wish to visit, or I'll just say country I wish to visit. Okay, and what I'll do is I'll use my wish list collection. I'll instantiate it and I'll say my wish list dot add the country that I've just sent to the method. Straightforward, and I'll return my wish list. Perfect. If I return it here, what should be the type of return type? It should be my wish list, and it should be a list of string. Save. So far, so good. Basically, whatever I've written, did that make sense? Don't worry about the long-term picture. Don't worry about the entire movie. Just this bit is perfect. All right. Now let's try to test and try these methods. Okay, let's see what happens. So first of all, I'll just go ahead and try to execute my very first method. So what I'll say is travel tracker dot capture locations, and I want to capture the location. Let's say I've been to India and it was in 2005. Okay. And what I want to do is I want to store it in my map because it is returning this kind of data, right? So I'll just say map of integer comma list of string, my places visited is equal to this value, and let's debug it. And let's see what does it hold. Okay, let's say execute. We'll see the structure of the map, right? Let's click on debug only, and we see that the year is 2005 and the country you have visited is India. So you see 2005 is the key, equal to is the value, and the value is within a bracket, meaning it is a list of strings. Right now we have just added one, right? Similarly, I want to take a look at my wish list. So let's go ahead and say travel tracker. So this would return a list of string. So I'll say travel tracker dot wish list tracker, and I'll say I want to visit, let's say UK, right? Let's print what is in my wish list now. What should it be? It should basically be one country, and it should say that UK is your country that you want to visit. So let's go ahead and say execute highlighted. Let's take a look at the debug only statements. So you see UK is one item in my list of string that is currently displayed as my wish list. Perfect. Now let's make things a bit more interesting. So what I want to do is I want to add another item to my wish list. Okay, and let's say this is USA. Okay, and I want to add another item, Bahrain, right? Let's say these are the three countries I want to visit. Okay, what do I want to do next is I want to assign the final call to a variable so that I can basically debug it, right? Now, ideally, based on your understanding, if I execute this entire set of statements, what should be my wish list? It should be UK, USA, Bahrain, correct? My wish list should store all the three, right? But let's take a look at what happens if I say execute highlighted. Let's take a look at the debug only logs. So if you see, we added three countries where we wanted to go, but it has only taken the last country, which is Bahrain right here. Now, why is that so? Take a look at your method now. Ideally, this should be a list of string. Now, what we'll try to do is understand what's happening. How are things executing? Okay, this is my method right here. These are my calls. Forget about the first two calls here. Just this bit right here. Okay, we'll get back to the first method. I call the wishlist tracker with UK. So the country I wish to visit is set as UK. All right. So I have a list, which is my list, and I instantiated it. Correct? And then I said add the country I wish to visit. So my list will contain UK. Perfect. It will return UK, but I did not return it here because I am wanting to add more countries. So I went ahead and said USA. So for the next call, this is set as USA. The variable in the method parameters is set to USA. Now this line has again instantiated my list, meaning the list that I was tracking as my class variable is getting reinstantiated every time. And whenever it is reinstantiated or whenever it is instantiated, a fresh set of variable is set, meaning the information that you were retaining or you were storing previously has now gone. So this line is the culprit. Correct? So because you are saying my wish list is a new list of string again, so the previous information has gone away. You don't have it anymore. And the same thing is happening for USA when you are calling Bahrain. And that's when you have Bahrain here in the third iteration. It is instantiated again and it adds Bahrain. And what is the result that you get? You get Bahrain as the final result. So UK and USA gone. Why? You instantiated your list here. Right? So instead of instantiating your list every time, what can you do? What are your possibilities? Let's take a look. Either you can instantiate it once on the top level. So if I do it here and I get rid of my instantiation here and I say save, let's see what happens. So I just made one change. I did not instantiate in the method level, correct? So I'll just get rid of this log and let's try to execute it now. If I now execute that same chunk of code, what should be my result? Let's quickly see. Let's click on debug only. You see, UK, USA, Bahrain have all been retained and my wish list is complete. I'm able to see all the countries I wish to visit, and just because of this instantiation, my code was not working. Does that make sense? Right? Now that's one way of doing it. What's another way of doing it? The other way of doing it is if you don't want to instantiate it on the class level, let's say. So how do you check here whether you need to instantiate it or not? So I need to check whether I need to instantiate the list or continue adding new countries. That is the question. So how do I decide that? I can put a if condition. And what would that if condition hold? That if condition will check whether my wish list is instantiated or not. So I can simply say my wish list if the size is equal to 0, meaning the list size is 0, so I can instantiate it. Correct? Else I can do something else. So if your list size is 0, can you say that my wish list is equal to a new wish list that I want to create? So I'll instantiate it only when the size or the number of elements in my list are 0, meaning it's coming here for the very first time. Correct? So what I'll do is I'll simply create and I'll assign the value country I wish to visit to my list. As simple as that. However, if the size is not equal to 0, meaning the wish list size is already it's already holding a country, meaning I just need to add another country to the list to continue instead of reinstantiating it. That's it. Right? So this check that I've done here ensures and tells you, okay, you only want to instantiate it when you don't have any values inside it. Okay, now I will debug this particular set of statements that we just did, right? And this will still fail, right? So if you are someone who's with me right now, this looks fine, right? But this will fail. So let's go ahead and say execute highlighted. It tells line 23, attempt to dereference a null object. So you have gotten an exception. There's an error, which is line 23, which is, I'm not sure why is it giving line 23, but the problem here is that my wish list does not even exist right now. Why does it not even exist right now? So you said Himanshu, you said that you have a method that you can use with the list. It's called size. So why is it failing? I'll tell you this particular line is failing. All right. And why is this failing is because you're trying to access a variable that's defined, but it has not been given any space in the system. When do you get space in the system? When you instantiate your variable. That's when a specific heap memory is stored, created for you, and that's where you can actually put your things. That's where you can store your things. But what we did here was we did not instantiate it at all, and we just proceeded ahead with understanding whether it contains data or not. Okay, for now, don't worry about what you see here, but just think about that you're getting an exception because your variable is not instantiated. We'll look into the null pointer exception very soon, but right now just understand that you are trying to reference or you are trying to dereference something that is null, which is void, which is empty. Why is it empty? Because you have not instantiated it. Make sense? Right? So the ideal solution would be to basically instantiate it and then also put a check down below. Okay, so you can simply put a check. So these are the two things that you can do. Ideally, instantiation is needed here on the top. Okay, and if you want to instantiate it inside, you have to find a way to not touch the variable and still understand whether it is empty or not. So what is another way of understanding it is empty or not? Let's say you don't want to do it on the class level. You're still very stringent. Himanshu, I still don't want to instantiate on the class level. What can you do? How can we resolve it? What you can do is you cannot use the dot operator here. You cannot use a method here. What you can simply do is you can check whether this particular variable is equal to null. We'll understand the null keyword very soon, but for now, just understand whatever is not instantiated is equal to null in Salesforce. Okay, so what you can do is instead of checking the size of the variable, you just check whether it is null or not. It does not exist. If it does not exist, okay, I want to instantiate it. Save. All right, so these are all the ways we have tried to approach the problem. We were able to succeed in a scenario, but then now we are here at a point where we are doing a check whether the variable is instantiated or not. If it is not instantiated, we are instantiating and adding our first country to it, which is this line right here. And if it already contains a country, meaning it will not be null, so it will go to the else condition and it will basically add my country. All right, so now let's try to execute our highlighted code, and this time everything should work fine. So it executed, no null reference error. If I click on the debug only statement, you see all your countries have been added, which is the perfect way of writing or handling your code and handling your wish list. Your wish list is ready. Sounds good? Felt a bit complex? If it did, just go back 5 minutes, revisit the video and try to do it on your own alongside with me, and then you'll be able to feel better about it. So now what we want to do is we want to use the same information that we understood here on our wishlist tracker and try to build this capture locations method. Why? Because there's a problem that lies here. Similar to how we discussed here, you have an instantiation that you're doing here, meaning your map will always be re-updated with the last information. You'll not be able to save all the countries you've visited. Only the last information will show up. But that's not what we need, right? We need the entire repository of all the places we have visited across dates, across years, right? So we need to refactor this particular code because this particular code currently will not work. Why? There are two instantiations. See this one right here and then this one right here. They will always keep setting your list to empty and then add the last details. I hope that is clear based on the wishlist tracker method. Correct? So let's get rid of this particular code and we will write this from scratch. Okay, and this time we'll try to follow everything that we need to follow. Okay, so how do we capture the locations that we have? How do we capture it? So first of all, we'll create, let's not create the variable for now because we need it for a return statement. I was thinking to create it, but let's work on the use case. I have a places visited directory map. All right, so we'll go ahead and instantiate it on the top. Let's do the instantiation here. Okay, let's not worry, let's not trouble ourselves with the null pointer exception. So it is instantiated, meaning some space has been reserved. All good. Now what I want to do is I am feeding this particular method a country and an year, and I will be doing this multiple times. This is what I want to feed this particular method. Correct? So I'll be calling this method which with each entry every time, and my map should have this update for each year. It should create a key and it should store the list of strings alongside it. Meaning for 2020 you should have Bahrain, for 21 you should have India, for 22 you should have UK, and for 23 you should have Egypt, USA. Make sense? Right? So your last entry for 2023 will contain two items because it is a list of string per year of visit. Correct? So what we'll do is first we'll simply take a look at our map. This is our map, right? So what do I need to do? I need to basically check a few things. Check if the year of visit that has come to the method already exists or not, right? That is what I want to check first of all. If the year does not exist, I create a new entry with this key, where the key would be the year of visit. Agreed? But if the key or rather the year already exists, what does that mean? That means I've already visited some place and it is already stored in my directory for that particular year. So if the year already exists, I fetch all the countries for that year, append the new country, and then put it back in the map. Does that make sense? So if it is sorted in English, it will be sorted in code. All right, or basically in your language. So check if the year of visit that has come to the method already exists or not. So how do we check whether year of visit, I'm so sorry, year of visit is already part of the map or not? So I'll put a if condition, right? And what I'll do is I'll say if places visited directory dot contains key. I have a method called contains key, and this is where our collection knowledge comes into fruition, right? So if the places visited directory contains key, it will go here only if the key already exists. If it does not exist, it will go here. Save. Let's try to save it. So line 15 should not show an error, hopefully. Yeah, that error has gone. All right. Perfect. The 11 line error is still showing because we have not added a return statement and the data type is mentioned, right? Let's not worry about that for now. So check if the year of visit that has come to the method already exists or not. This is our check. Okay. So if the year does not exist, now which part does it tell you it will not exist? Is it the if condition or the else condition? So this will evaluate to true or false. So if it contains the key, it will evaluate to true and it will go inside. But if it does not contain the year, it will come here, meaning this is where we want to write our next code. Okay, so if the year does not exist, what can I do? I can simply say places visited directory dot put, and what should be my key? The key should be the year of visit. And what should be my value? The value cannot be the country name directly. Focus, right? It cannot be the country name. Why? Because the country name is a string type data. What are you trying to store in your map? You're trying to store a list of strings, right? So what you'll do is you'll instantiate your list because this is the very first time you're coming here, and you'll just add country name as the first variable value. Save. So for the very first time, for any year of visit, it will always go to the else condition. Do you agree or not? Let's say you went for 2020. You come here, you say Bahrain 2020. So it will come here and it will check. Does the map contain 2020? No, it will go here. It will say put 2020 and create a new list with Bahrain. Sorted. 21. It will go in here. It will check. 21 and India. Does the map contain 21? No, it contains only 2020. So it does not contain the key 21. It will go to the else condition. It will create another entry. It will be called 21 India, and so on and so forth. All right. So we complete 2020, we do 2021, we visit UK in 2022, we come to 2023 and we visit USA. So far, so good. And now you also decided to visit Egypt in the same year. And that's when you check this particular node. Now you've come here with Egypt 2023. It will say if the map contains the key 2023. Now this time you already have a country visited, meaning your code will go in here. Now, if it comes here, what do you want to do? You want to fetch all the countries that you have already visited and you want to just append the new country that you have visited now. Correct? So, how do you first of all fetch all the countries you have already visited on that particular year? See, you have the year of visit variable. What you can do is you can get, correct? So, you can use the get method on your map, right? So map dot get, and what do you put here? You put the key, and what is our key? It is the year of visit. Correct? Now what will this return? This will return you the list of countries, which is a list of string countries visited. Is this fine? So this will tell you that you have USA in your hand because you have already visited that place. Now what you want to do is you simply want to use that same map and add your new country. What is your new country? This country name right here. So your list is appended with the country that you have visited or added to your visit list. And once you have done that, you can take a look at that map again, and you want to update your directory for that particular year. So how do you do that? Do you say dot put? So if you say dot put, what you'll have to do, you'll have to say year of visit as the key and the countries visited as your value. Let's say semicolon and let's say save. Okay. Now that we have our if else condition written, what do I want to do? I want to return the final result, which is this particular directory. And why am I returning it? Because this is my entire collection of year of visit versus the places I visited. So I'll say return places visited directory and I'll say save. Let's check if it gets saved or not first of all. So there's some error, I believe. Let's take a look. What is that? So variable does not exist. Place visited. Okay, I have made a typo. It should be places visited. Correct? Places visited. This is the variable value I'm wanting to return. Let's say save now. Saved. Perfect. We have been able to handle our collection pretty well. What I want to do is I'll just get rid of these comments to make it a bit more neat. And what we'll do is we'll try to do these insertions that we just talked about with an example. Okay, so now let's try to call this method. Let's get rid of all the below code and let's keep this line. What I want to do is I want to capture multiple locations. So let's say I want to do 5 or 6 countries. Okay, so India, UK, the US. Where do you want to go? You want to go to Bahrain, you want to go to Singapore, right? So I've just added this. Let's say you visited in 28, 7. This was back in 15. This is in 2023. So far so good. I've made 5 entries, or let's do another 5. Okay, let's do another 5. Let's see how it works, right? And I want to do, let's say 24. This would again be 28. This would be 8. This would be 2015, and this would be 2021. All right, so visited India, UK, US, Bahrain, Singapore, let's say Indonesia, let's say Malaysia, let's say Riyadh, right? What else? Let's say Italy. All right, and what about this? This should also be India ideally, but let's say you visited Sri Lanka. Okay, so you have visited all of these countries in the span of these many years, right? And what I want to do is I basically want to take a look at my final result through my method. Okay, so let's assign this particular variable value to my last call so that I have the latest data and I can take a look at it. which is my places visited. Okay, excited to see how it returns the data? Let's take a look. So the first thing is, since we understood our code properly, we did not get any compilation errors, right? And if I take a look at the debug only statement, you'll notice the code has beautifully aligned and oriented your travel destinations that you have visited per year of visit. 2008, take a look. UK, Malaysia, Riyadh, you went to two places, right? 2015, you went to Bahrain and Italy, two places, and every other year you were in a single country. All right, so this is how you have been able to set up a map with a key which is an integer and then value is a list of string. It was interesting, right? So for those of you for whom it was a bit overwhelming, take a look at this video one more time where we started off understanding this method right here. I know this looks a bit straightforward now, right? You understood this very clearly. On top of that information, I wanted to build this particular knowledge, right? If I started with this, this would have not made sense and it would have been a bit more difficult. All right, so just take a look at this particular method that I've written and just try to focus and listen to what I've been saying while I've been typing the code, and try to write the same code alongside. Try to write it, try to make mistakes, try to see what is the error showing up, and try to just execute and return your capture location method debug log and see what is it returning. Try with your sample data. Okay, very interesting use case, very nicely done. Now let's go ahead and try to do our simple methods with all of that tension and all of that pressure released with these two methods. Let's now quickly do the easy ones. So here I want to see all the countries that I've visited for a specific year. Now, after doing this particular method, this would be a piece of cake for you. So what do I want to return? I want to return the list of countries that I've visited for a specific year. So what should be the data type? It should be list of string. Correct? Now, which variable has all of this information? This variable right here, which is declared here. So if I take my variable and I say dot get and I say give me data for 2020 or give me data for 2021, will it simply not give you all the countries that you visited for that year? Yes, it will. And you have your year of visit parameter already available. So you can simply call this and say return. As simple as that. So this will return you the list of string. What about the final method? Retrieve the country count, right? So what is this use case? Let me just take a look at the question. Count the number of times you have been to a specific country, right? So what you want to do is you want to take a look at the number of times you have been to a specific country. All right. So let's just keep it a bit more simpler. Let's do how many times you have visited a specific country in a specific year. So I'll put integer. I don't want to take you there for now because we'll do a lot more of exercise around collections with our use cases that are coming up after learning database operations. Right now, let's keep this one a bit more simpler because I think I've already overwhelmed you with this particular method, right? So if you just make sure that you have understood this bit right here, okay? If that's something that you've done, write a comment that yes, Imanshu, I've been able to understand it. So that's kudos to me. Like that's something that I'd love to know. Okay, so here what I want to do is I want to take a look at, based on a specific year of visit, what are the total number of countries I have visited. All right, so how do I do that? I have the year of visit and I have the variable that holds my entire directory. So can I simply not again use this particular code? What will this give me? For 2023, this will give me this data. You visited US, UK, it will be comma separated UK and then probably let's say India. This is what I did in 2023. What I want is basically the count. So it should show me 3 as the count. So what method can I use to do that? I can take a look at this entire code, this entire method, and I can wrap it up with the size attribute or the size method. Why? Because just see here, this bit right here will return you a list of string, and list of string always has a method called size that will give you the total count. If I just say save here and I put a return statement here, this also is sorted. Save. All right. If I now try to call my methods here, let's go ahead and say travel tracker dot show countries visited for 2020, or let's say 2008, right? Let's take a look at what happened in 2008, right? How many countries did we visit? And then let's also take a look at what countries did we visit in 2008, right? So I'll just say system.debug, show countries visited is done, and I want to take a look at the count also, both things. All right, let's go ahead and execute the entire bunch. The log is opening up. Let's take a look at the debug only statements. And if you notice, this is your entire repository. This is just for 2008, which is UK, Malaysia, and Riyadh. And then it tells you that it's 3 countries. Perfect. What an amazing use case. And if you have been able to understand this, kudos to you. That's amazing. And this is a solid step to becoming a Salesforce developer, this bit right here. Okay, for those of you who found this a bit fast, I'll encourage you to take a look at the video one more time and try to do it with me. You will find it a bit more soothing, a bit more easy to understand. Okay, and for those of you who have been able to figure this out on your own, that's amazing. You're already on a good shape. Lastly, I challenge some of you who can possibly give this a try, right? The one that I let a bit loose, right? I did not do the exact one. What we want to do as part of this method is store the count of the number of times you have been to a specific country. So ideally, you should have a method that gives this kind of data. What kind of data? Let me just put a sample. Okay, so for those of you who can try it out, just give it a try and put the comment and just let me know if it works for you. What kind of data are we looking for? We are looking for something like this. So India 2 times, Singapore 1 time, UK once, USA once, Malaysia 5 times. So this is based on your entire directory. You'll be able to take a look at your entire directory and then take a look at all the countries and count each country. How many times have you visited it across your total span of years? Okay, the final result should be this bit right here. It should be like this, meaning it would be a map of string comma integer, as simple as that. So for those of you who would like to take up this challenge right away and you have a good hold on collections, give it a try. Let's see. All right, but yeah, I think that's good enough for this particular use case, and I hope I was able to make sense. Salesforce makes sense. I'll see you in the next video with another use case. Bye.